Good afternoon. I'm Charles Franklin, and this is my colleague Ken Goldstein. We're with the University of Wisconsin Department of Political Science's online campaign school and pollster.com. As you may have heard, the Supreme Court ruled today in an expansive ruling that expands the rights of corporations to make campaign contributions. We want to talk about the consequences of that a little bit. Ken, you're the leading expert in campaign expenditures and especially advertising. What do you think the effect of this is going to be on campaign advertising in this 2010 election cycle?
The short answer is a big effect. This was already shaping up to be a very active, engaged political year, and this is just going to put even more resources into elections, and even more of those resources ending up on television. And what the decision essentially did was overturn two pretty significant regulations that restricted what corporations could do when it comes to elections. On the books in this country for since post Watergate was the notion that you only could use hard money. You could only use money contributed directly to candidates for federal office or money directed to PACs, specifically for express advocacy in elections, and use what are typically called magic words: vote for, defeat, vote against. What this decision has said, corporations can say anything they want when it comes to the money that they spend on elections. In addition, what it did was BICRA, the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, often called McCain-Feingold, restricted what interest groups and corporations could do in the last 30 days of a primary or 60 days of a general election. They could not air an ad that mentioned or depicted a candidate for federal office if they didn't use hard money. And so what this decision basically did is said, not only can they use soft money, corporate money, union treasury money to air ads within 60 days of an election, but they can say anything they want in those ads, including very direct advocacy language like vote for, defeat. And what's really interesting is, and I'll turn it over to you here, it's the perfect storm. You have what's shaping up to be a very competitive election year from a public opinion standpoint, from the demographics of the voters standpoint, and now these groups are going to have the resources to compete in that election year.
One question. In the past, corporations could form political action committees and channel money through those political action committees. Now they can do this directly from corporate funds. They don't have to do it through political action committees anymore. Is that right?
Sure. So what political action committees actually were members of the corporation, employees of the corporation, would give a voluntary corporation to a PAC that may have been associated with a corporation or a union or an interest group, and then that PAC would make decisions. Now money can come directly from the treasury of a corporation into political speech, into election speech.
I think also a lot of people think of a corporation and they think IBM. But there are other kinds of corporations engaged in politics, right, who have had PACs and used that for their campaign purposes. Now this opens the door for them as well?
We could be a corporation. So yeah, IBM, AT&T, those are corporations, but also any group of 1, 2, 3 people can get together, create a corporation, funnel money into that corporation, and now use that money for election speech.
So this really opens the doors, and with competitive Senate elections coming up, and especially the results that we just saw in Massachusetts this week, you think we're going to see a ton of television advertising in the fall?
Right. As a reader of pollster.com, right? You look at the numbers in the country. You look at the numbers on the wrong, people thinking the country's going in the wrong track. You look at Obama's favorability. You still see Democratic Party identification staying straight, but you know the evidence more than I do. What's going on with independents? In Virginia and New Jersey in the fall gubernatorial elections, in Massachusetts this past Tuesday, even if the Democrats have a slight advantage in party identification, independents are, what's going on there?
And that's where we saw the huge surge. Barack Obama and Democratic candidates for the Senate and governorships did very well with independents, both in 2006 and 2008. That was the key to the big surge to Democrats in Congress, and of course Barack Obama winning over 60% of the independent vote. What we've seen in these 3 off-year elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and now in Massachusetts is independents going 2-to-1 for Republicans. This is going to be the key battleground group for the fall, and that's where I think a lot of that campaign advertising, some of it coming from independent corporate expenditures, now much more of it coming from them, is going to be a very big play in these seemingly very close Senate elections that we have coming up.
Yeah, so I mean, I think people consider there's 12 or 13 toss-up Senate elections. There's maybe 5 or 6 more that could go into that toss-up category. And not only what happened in Massachusetts, or Massachusetts was a tell for the anger among independent voters, that could have put other states, bigger states, into play like California. But if someone said, well, I may not have the money to compete in a California, this sort of decision puts a lot more money to be able to communicate with those independents that even in a state like, in New Jersey or Massachusetts where the Democrats have a significant advantage, or a state like California where the Democrats have a significant advantage, when you lose an independents 2 or 3 to 1, that Democratic advantage goes away pretty quickly.
That's right. It's also really interesting to look at which states are currently rated as toss-ups, because on the Democratic side, it includes Arkansas, Nevada, Colorado, and Pennsylvania. At least 2 or 3 of those are big states. 2 of those are big states with incumbents running for re-election, but seen as endangered. And then there are also some Democratic open seats in Connecticut, Delaware, and Illinois. Normally, those are reliable Democratic seats. But after what happened in Massachusetts, I think Republicans have to be very encouraged that they can make inroads in those states. And you've already mentioned California, one where an incumbent, Barbara Boxer, is up for re-election, but with this ability to spend more money going into that big media market, very expensive California race, could turn that one into a highly competitive race as well. On the Republican side, there are some close races, but now you have national forces working in the favor of Republicans. Democrats have to worry about keeping those states in Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio, and New Hampshire, keeping those competitive even at a time when they're struggling to hold on to or win back independence. So with this decision today, it really looks like it opens the floodgates to a very competitive 2010 election cycle.
And I think one last thing for our savvy political observers to keep their eye on, this was a perfect storm week. You have the Massachusetts Senate result and this decision by the Supreme Court. I think the big decisions and the big impact is going to be what we can't see this week. If it encourages high-quality Republican challengers to get in these races, not only for the United States Senate, for the United States House, or discourages Democrats from running or encourages Democrats to retire, this could really be a double whammy for the Democrats.
That's exactly right, and the Republican National Committee is out today saying, Republicans, there will never be a better chance. This is your year. Get in the race now. Discouraged Democrats may be going, wow, man, I'd better hang on to my state legislative seat. Now's a bad time to run for Congress, run for the governorship, run for the Senate. I think the winds right now are really in the Republicans' back. So ironic that just 1 year ago yesterday, Obama's inauguration, Democrats were riding high, Republicans were a party in disarray. How the game has changed in 1 year, it really goes to show that in American politics, there's no such thing as a truly unwinnable seat. It just takes the right circumstances and the right candidates to turn that into victory.
Great.
And the right television advertising and money for it.
And the right television advertising. Well, thank you for giving us a few minutes out of your day. Charles Franklin, my colleague in the Department of Political Science, Ken Goldstein, also Department of Political Science, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the Online Campaign School. If you have any questions about the Online Campaign School and the ability to take some courses at the University of Wisconsin-Madison on survey research, polling, political communication, social psychology of electoral behavior, please give us an email at campaigns@polysci.wisc.edu. That's campaigns@polysci.wisc.edu. Good afternoon from Madison, Wisconsin.